Okay, we are here today to talk about the star. What a relief after after the devil in the tower. Here we are. And interestingly, it has a number of different stellar names. It used to actually be called, way back even before Marseille, the earliest decks, it was called the stars, with the plural. So, in the Visconti deck, you can see I think it's called Le Stelle, which means the stars. And it's also called the blazing star, the star of the Magi, the Inclitum Sidus, which is the glorious star. And the hermetic titles are the daughter of the firmament and the dweller between the waters. Are those two different systems, those two names, or are they just two names?
It's just two names. Some of them, I don't,
some of them have two.
I've been trying to puzzle out why some cards have two names and some have one, and I've got a theory, but I'm not ready.
Okay.
I haven't quite formulated it yet, but I've got a spreadsheet I'll share with you someday.
Oh my God, Mel, when you work it out, please tell me. I need to know.
If I work it out.
That's cool.
But anyway, this is one of my favorite cards as far as the title goes. So, Daughter of the Firmament. I mean, how beautiful is that?
It's gorgeous.
And so I know that there's the whole path discrepancy between Emperor and Star in the various traditions, but I do personally use Crowley's Star as Hay on the path between Tiferet and Hakma. And so Daughter of the Firmament, Hakma being the zodiac, descending down to the sun, which is another star. Yeah, a sun is a star. So when I think of Daughter of the Firmament, it makes me think of that. So from the zodiac to the sun, yet another part of the zodiac. And then the other title, Dweller Between the Waters. That one's really neat because the waters are referring to two types of water. So there's the Sea of Binah. There's waters as, that fertile, the Black Sea, but then there's the waters of the Aether, if you will, like the Milky Way.
I see what you mean.
So there's two types of water and she's between them.
Is that what he was is that what?
Yeah, I think that's what they're referring to when they say between the waters.
So between the dark sea of Binah and then the waters of the Milky Way.
Yes, yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah, I like that
sort
too.
Of a dark stream and a light stream.
Yeah.
So and that reminds you of the double glyph of Aquarius as well.
Yes. Yep.
The crypto water sign Aquarius, which is really an air sign.
Yeah, and so you see often on these cards, it's especially visible in the Thoth card where one cup is pouring down on her and one is pouring down on the earth, and she's between them. She's between these two types of water.
I'm so glad that you clarified that for me, because I've always wondered what waters
she was between.
Yes. And I've also wondered, you know, the difference between the solar and the lunar cup. So that kind of helps.
My Tabula Mundi deck, she's kneeling on the edge of the sea, but then the starry firmament of the, Milky Way is above her, and then she's between. So same thing is kind of shown here in Crowley's card, just in a different way.
Because you also have like the solar and the lunar realm, so there's the, the higher up waters of the solar realm, and then the sublunar realm.
The waters of the Aether versus the waters of the earth, if you will.
Right. So let's see. Where shall we start first? Kabbalah or astrology?
Let's start with astrology.
Okay. So Aquarius is, as we were saying, an air sign, and yet it has all these watery references.
Because Aquarius is the water bearer.
The water bearer. That's right. Usually, the Ganymede, or the cup bearer of the gods. Yeah. Ruled by Saturn.
That's air, water. So the waters of the Aether, the waters of the air versus the waters of the actual waters of the earth. So
yeah, that's such an interesting
think of Aquarius being both an air sign, but the water bearer. Right.
Or the idea that, a rain cloud holds water in the sky aloft.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. So there's, Saturn rulership, and in the modern system, Uranus, right? Detriment of the sun. And then there is no fall or exaltation in Aquarius, oddly enough, although sometimes people argue that Mercury's exalted in Aquarius, which is...
I've heard that.
But I can never sort of find the justification for it, so I've never really used it myself.
It does have a right feel to it, though, because Aquarius is such a visionary mental sign that I could see Mercury being very well placed there.
It passes the sniff test. Yeah, speaking of air. As you were saying, we have the Dark Sea of Binah as one of the sets of water, and Binah, of course, has that connection with Saturn, right? Aquarius is January 21st to February 19th, and opposite Leo. And what's interesting about that is that the period when the full moon is in Aquarius is, of course, when the sun is in Leo, which was the time when the Nile would flood in the summer in Egypt, and the dog star Sirius would become visible. So you have sort of these connections between flooding the water and the star and the rising of the star.
And it also makes me think of the Leo Aquarius axis makes me think of the lion and the angel, or the lion and the woman, or the lion, you know.
That's right, because they're both fixed, right? And you've got, and the lion and the woman. Mm-hmm. All right. So, so it's interesting to think about the connections with air with this card. Like the magical weapon is the censer, which is a device for spreading incense through the air. Practically speaking, I kept getting this card last year, this adjustment over and over and over, both of these cards. And I think it had to do because last year I learned to podcast. So I was manipulating the air. Yeah. So I was on air manipulating the air on the adjustment days, sound editing, and then broadcasting and talking about it and publicizing on the days I got the star card. So it was kind of an interesting, connection with air in that sense. Yeah.
And even the radio waves or air waves makes me think of Aquarius and the, the electricity or, waveforms.
That's right. That's right. And the idea that there's a central point that radiates out the signal. Even very star-like.
The glyph of Aquarius looks like radio waves or air waves, or water waves. So again, you have the type of air. Air as water and water as water,
I mean, there is that connection between the two. Like when you're swimming or floating, it's as close as you'll ever get to flying, right?
Yep.
Crowley calls that stream that's going from the cups the water of universal life. Is that a Crowley thing? Do you know? What do you know about that?
Well, the waters of universal life. Well, it's like the milk of the stars.
Yeah. It reminds me of the idea that there's a certain fertility that goes with this card as well.
Right. It's said to be, milk, water, milk, blood, and oil, all the forms of anointing fluids, if you will.
Yeah. And I think in the weight card, there's this concept of pouring onto the land and pouring into the water that's, to replenish the fertility of the land, the flooding of the Nile we have as well. So there's, water is the giver of life.
And in both cards, the woman has 1 foot on land and 1 foot in the waters, in a sense.
Yeah. And what does that tell us? Because temperance does that too.
Yeah, I think it's a connection between the physical plane and the more subtle planes of, the ethereal.
Yeah. Between the worlds of Bria and Asiya, the daughter and the mother. Right. And then again is your connection to primal and final hay.
Yes. And I kind of think of that with the 2 cups, Yeah. The 2 hays. The primal hay above and the daughter hay below, the earth and the water and the earth.
Okay. So let's go there. Let's start dealing with the Kabbalistic stuff, which is complicated because we have these 2 different correspondences. But as you can see, there's a lot of connection to the hay, that you use for.
I really, I cannot even though I respect and I see some good things about the other tradition, I just really cannot accept that the divine name would have two emperors in it. That just doesn't make sense to me at all, because it's father, mother, son, daughter. And so, and He is a feminine letter, and the star is one form of many goddesses. And so it just makes so much perfect sense for me for He to be associated with the star that I can't go back.
And you also have the idea of He as a window through which you can see the sky and the star, which is something you also see on the Crowley card. She's sort of looking across to, I think that this is supposed to be zodiac form of Chokmah, this great purple globe in the center of the card. So it's almost like she's looking through a window across the abyss.
Right.
So that, if you subscribe to He, that is the Chokmah Tifereth connection.
Yep. And so it means window or sight is the other.
Now, the other connection is parallel, lower down on the tree between Netzach and Yesod. And to me, you know, the idea that Netzach is associated with Venus and Yesod with the moon is very appealing as far as those feminine qualities we attribute to the star. This, again, the waters of universal life, the moon and Venus.
But I know you also use or are aware of and understand the doctrine between the mother and the daughter. So how do you reconcile the divine name aspects of the four letters if you put emperor there? Because that's something I could never really. I hit a mental stopping point when I get to that and go.
Yeah, I mean, when I think about the divine name, I think about the feminine qualities of He, and I think about the masculine qualities of Yod and Vav, but I don't consider the card names that hard when I'm using that.
But it's kind of fun to do that too. If you do, that's a really
if you do. But
neat thing to explore mentally.
It is, but the thing that I use more when I'm thinking about Kabbalistic attributions and the star is this idea of tzadi as the fishhook, as that which reaches for the fish. You know, it's close to death on the lower part of the tree, as the fishhook as something that is a connector between the distant and the near. So we have, you know, the star, as I interpret it, often works as a guiding light. You know, or something that you navigate towards, interpretationally, whether it's the Star of Bethlehem or whether it's your own hopes and aspirations down the line. And to me, the act of casting the line for the fish is, you know, definitely the triumph.
But to me, the thought of a fish hook is very martial. You know, it's got pointy arrow, barb, and it's used to stick something that it makes a lot of sense for Aries and Mars.
I can see that.
So yeah, there's both ways.
Okay, so a couple of Kabbalah addendums. In both, actually, the Waite star and the Crowley star, there's you know, kind of a pool in the base of the Waite card and a kind of a river in the base of the Crowley card that could be a reference to the waters of the moon, Yesod, way down on the tree. If you look in the Waite card at where that bird of Thoth is representing Netzach and the pool representing Yesod, that could, you know, her posture between those two could support the idea of that path going between Netzach and Yesod. Okay. Yeah.
And then when we were talking about the star as Nui and Nui as the three veils of nothing, there's somewhere there's a quote, I think it's in the Book of the Law, and in Nui is referred to as nothing. Well, it's kind of an acronym hidden in there. It says nothing under its three forms. So if you think of those three negative veils, and if you actually take an acronym of that phrase, nothing under its three is Nuit.
Yeah. Which is also, of course,
cool.
French for night. Yes. This is a card of the night.
And that whole chapter of the Book of the Law, so the first chapter of the Book of the Law is all Nuit speaking, and it's some of the most beautiful phrasing you'll ever read. I think it's in Duquette's book, he says something about if you want to know what the star card is all about, just go read the whole first chapter of the Book of the Law, because it's Nuit speaking. But we obviously can't do that here, so we'll just read my favorite quote. I am the blue-lidded daughter of sunset. I am the naked brilliance of the voluptuous night sky. And I just love that. You can just picture it.
You can just picture it. Yeah. Yeah. It's absolutely lovely.
And it speaks to that, every man and woman is a star, that we're all self-luminous in a way.
That's true. Yeah. There's something about that that reminds me of the way, we kindle the spark of hope within us, despite reality, despite everything we see outside. And that becomes our own guiding star.
The spark of hope. She's making thunderbolts.
That's right. Appropriate. Yeah. And, I think to me, it's important. What's more important to me is that the letters descend down the tree, not that which card is associated with it is something that's been negotiated and arbitrary over many generations of occultists. So, I can be okay with different versions of that. I would not be okay with putting hay in a different place on the tree than it is.
No, and he didn't do that either.
Which he didn't do.
Right.
So, the letters stay in the same place. It's only the card assignations.
The card that moves to a different path.
Yeah, and I
do like the star on that path, because then you get the three goddesses all together in a triangle formation. You have the Empress, the star, well, the lovers, I guess that doesn't exactly, but I don't know. You get all the goddesses above. You certainly get all the goddesses at the top of the tree. Then you have the priestess, the Empress, the star, and they're all above.
Right. And I think, when you're choosing these attributions, you get to decide what works for you. And I think it comes down to instinctively, in terms of interpretation, what works best for you, and either is legitimate, whatever you can remember and hold on to easily is probably the right choice for you. So, that's.
But I think in working with the Thoth deck, it's important to use his way in a sense, because it's all there in the cards even. And,
I would absolutely agree. If you're using Thoth, it's very hard to assign Tzadi to the card, because you have pictures, references all over it. I mean, it's easier if you want to misattribute with the Emperor, because, there's some visual matchups,
discrepancies with that one, but not so much with this one.
With this one, you really have, we can talk about exactly what those references are, to Chokmah and Tiferet in the card. You have this, as we were saying, this idea that
the zodiac,
looking at the zodiac,
right?
And she has, it's as if she's looking across the abyss.
Yeah, looking across. So if her, path, one of the paths, she could be looking up at the path between Chokmah and Binah, and there are references to that in the card with the little pyramids, the city of the pyramids behind her on the horizon. See the little the pyramids we have here.
Yeah, I do see that. Yeah,
Binah reference. And then there's you can see, so the big circular form of the zodiac behind her, and then outside of that form is the 7-pointed star of Babylon. So
so it's almost as though she's looking far
above above the abyss, kind of.
That could be a Binah.
And Venus is reference. One of the only 3 cards. It's the only feminine card above the abyss.
Okay.
Because we've got Magus, Fool, and Empress.
Right. That's right. Yes, exactly. So it's almost as though the daughter's looking up at the mother.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think, there's Venus references throughout both cards, which is part of the reason that another connection for me with using the other path because it's connected to Netzach, which is the sphere of Venus. And, you know, there are wonderful connections between Venus and Saturn throughout this card and throughout. I feel like we've talked Venus and Saturn in a different
There's a
card.
lot of Mercury in
That's true too.
the Rider-Waite card. There's the 8 pointed stars and eight stars in all, 1 central with 7 surrounding.
Yes.
Which could be our sun and the 7 planets.
Yes, or the Pleiades
Right.
as well. There's something I wanted to say about 8, about that 8-pointed star. Well, we'll get to
How many hexagrams are in the I Ching? Is it 64?
It might
8
be.
by
Let's
8?
check.
There's 8 stars in the Waite card, each with 8 points, so that would be a total of 64 points. It made me think of the I Ching, if that's the number of combinations there are.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there is sort of in a macro level, I think of this as having this card as having a connection with divination generally, because, you know, astrology as a divinatory
sight and
tool and
looking ahead,
looking beyond at patterns, kind of a thing. But let's talk about some of the Venus references throughout, because I think probably the goddess that is cognate with Venus and the goddess whose story is often connected with this card is the Astarte or Ishtar or Inanna figure of Sumerian mythology. And
Nuit, of course.
Nuit, of course. So the story, we should probably tell the story of Inanna.
Is 7 veils. Is
that, she had a sister. She was a sky goddess who had a sister in the underworld whose name was Ereshkigal. I don't know whether I'm pronouncing that right, but I don't think
get on her bad side.
There's not anyone alive to tell me. So Ereshkigal, the frightful sister of the underworld. And Inanna or Astarte goes to visit her. We don't exactly know why. Do you know why? I was looking it up last night.
I can't remember what she was asking for, but I think she was going there to ask for a favor, or was it, did it have something to do with her lover?
That's what I thought.
Dumuzi
or Tammuz. I've had that same impression in my mind, so we must have gotten it from the same place, but I couldn't figure it out last night when I was trying to look it up. So all I could figure out was that she went down there.
I think she has to go humble herself before her sister to ask.
Does.
I think for her either the body or the spirit.
That sounds like Isis almost.
of her.
Well, she goes
consort. If
so
you
the
will.
story that I read was interesting because it brings in the consort at the end. She goes down. She wants to get there for whatever reason. Maybe she wants to take over that territory in some way. I've also seen that theory, but she's not allowed in. And the gatekeeper of hell is under instructions not to let her in. And she tells her attendants, her retinue, that if I don't come back, you need to help me out, because supposedly you go to hell, you can't come back. This makes sense. So she goes there. The gatekeeper says no, but then he gets alternate instructions from Ereshkigal saying you can let her in, but she has to give up some of her raiment. So she's got veils, she's got
necklaces,
like magical weapons, she's got all this great stuff that is like her emblems of power. And one by one, she has to give each one up as she goes through the 7 gates until she stands naked before her sister.
The world's first striptease.
Yes, exactly. Which I just love that connection in here. So she goes there and and
the star goddess is always shown naked in almost every deck, even ones that don't do nudity.
Exactly. So she stands there naked, and her sister is pissed that she's come here at all, because I've heard in one version she actually, Astarte goes and sits on the throne, and the sister is obviously peeved about that. So she is hung or killed in some way.
On a hook.
On a hook. On a fish hook. There you go.
A meat hook.
Yes, exactly. The star on a meat hook. And
That sounds awful.
It sounds terrible, but there she is, hung there, left to die. But her attendants remember that she's, they recognize that she's not back yet. They're worried. And her minister sends two sexless beings, is how it's described, to bring her the water and food of life, to sprinkle it on her body, and she returns to life. Which is sort of this Persephone-like figure, right? Because she returns to life, she leaves the underworld, and she comes out and she recognizes that her ministers have been loyal to her. They have brought her back to life. But Damuzi, or Tammuz, has not. She discovers that he has been entertaining himself, so to speak. And the deal when you leave the underworld is that you don't get to just leave. Somebody has to take your place. So she sends Tammuz in her place. That's his punishment. So anyway, that's a colorful, People magazine version of this, of this myth of Astarte and her 7 gates, which is also kind of interesting. This mystic number 7 is associated with Venus, right?
And I like the water and food of life being sprinkled on her. It makes me think of these 2 cups.
Yeah.
And she's pouring one on herself and one on the earth. Yeah.
Right. So,
and the card is all about renewal,
The renewal of the earth, or the renewal of hope, or whatever it is. But again, this association of the 7, reminds me of the 7 gates of hell is like the 7 palaces of Asiya, which is a reference that, is a little far deep into Golden Dawn tradition. But, the idea was that when the Sephirot were broken, you have the husks. They're called the klipot, the shells. Yeah, the shells that form the sort of anti-Sephirot. And there are 7 of those, which you can see in your 7 of Discs card, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So, this was a little obsession of mine a couple years ago. I remember hitting you up for all sorts of Palaces of Asiya references. So again, this number 7 to me is sort of fortifies the connection with Netzach, and that particular path. But 7 is the number of Venus, and 7 is the number of stars in the weight card. It's the number of points on the star in the, Crowley card, right? So Star of Babylon up there. So what's the connection between Babylon and 7?
Well, on her emblem, she has the 7-pointed star with the 7 in every corner,
Right. She does. And that's a number that's sacred to her, right?
Yeah. All these goddess cards, they're almost like different aspects of the same thing.
Feminine,
Babylon is a form of Nuit in a sense, where Nuit would be the original kind of higher form, whereas the more corporal, earthy form would be Babylon.
And then we have the connections between the various goddesses of love, beauty, desire.
Right, you've got all the cards with the goddess cards and the Empress, the Venus card.
Right. So it's really interesting to think of this card sort of in comparison to Empress.
They're all forms of Nuit in a sense. The priestess, they're priestess, the lady of the silver star there,
Right. I'm trying to think if there's interpretationally sort of a difference in the way we view the goddess, in a reading, whether the Empress has more of a maternal quality and the star has more of a, anima quality or something.
I think Crowley referred to the Empress as the wife, and which one was the mother? You would think it would be the Empress, but there was another card. It might have even been the star as the mother. And then, anyway, I think he calls the star the mother and the Empress the wife. So that points to a more mundane, in a sense.
Closer to
Earth,
closer to Earth a little bit. Yeah.
Right. Venus says being ruler of Taurus, which is more of an earthy, also Libra,
but also Libra. Yeah.
She seems very earthy in a sense,
Right. Yeah. So, as far as stars go, there's always the question of, 7 or 8 points, 7 or 8 stars,
Right.
and 7 has its own certain symbolism because of Venus, and also because if you will definitely have to put a diagram up about the acute heptagram of 7, because if you place a planet on each point, if you go around the edge, you get
an order of
the descending order, Chaldean order, which gives us the, Saturn, Jupiter,
the speed of the planets based on relative orbital speed.
Exactly. So,
and then if you go across,
but if you follow the points, you get the days of the week, which is cool. Absolutely fascinating. Yep. So that's something I always like to look at with this particular arrangement. So the descending order, I feel like we should do this. The descending order goes Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, Sun, Venus, Mercury, Moon. Right. In order from apparent speed motion, from the Earth.
And the 7 stars around a central one, or the 7 pointed star, can refer to the entire tree because it's all the 7 planets. And then you have above that, you have the, zodiac and the, the primal mobile of the Fool.
That's right.
And then, Malkuth at the end. And then you've got the whole entire tree. And I've heard Nui referred to as, the star card and Nui being referred to as the 3 veils. So, those are the 3 veils of nothingness around, from which descend into Keter and the first point. And if you think about her as the overarching sky, you can kind of see that, that there's a definite connection with, Nui as infinite expansion and those 3 veils. And there's also that connection between the star and the Fool, that we should read that thing from the Wake World about the thunderbolts, where she's making thunderbolts, because thunderbolts are a reference to the letter Aleph, the shape of a thunderbolt. And in a lot of the descriptions, if you look in Book T, like what this card should look like, it says that her attitude suggests a swastika. And again, the swastika is that shape of a thunderbolt, kind of like an Aleph. Yes. So there's a definite connection between those 2 cards. And what's even cooler is the swastika form is also what's known as a hermetic cross, or a fylfot. Cross, and
fylfot. I don't know how to say it.
I don't know how to say it either. I could probably spell it, but
FYLFOT. Yep. You can Google it.
So, but that, if you look at one of those, it's 17 squares. And that's the number of the star
really
card.
Cool. Yes, because you have the central square in the middle, and then 4
and then
on
the
each.
arms, and that adds up to 17 squares. So there's a definite connection between the swastika, the Aleph, the thunderbolt, the Fool, and the star. There's something going on there.
It's such a shame that, the swastika is such an interesting ancient symbol, and it's such a shame that it was perverted in the Nazi era.
It is a shame, because it's actually a beautiful solar symbol of spiraling solar force.
Yeah. Okay, so Wake World, you were saying, is a fiction that Crowley wrote from the perspective of a young girl on her journey through the tree.
Right, her journey of waking up, and she encounters along the way each of the paths, and this is what was said about the path of the star card. All I shall tell you is, there was the most beautiful goddess that ever was, and she was washing herself in a river of dew. If you ask what she is doing, she says, I'm making thunderbolts. It was only starlight, and yet one could see quite clearly, so don't think I'm making a mistake.
Oh. Wonderful. And there it is right in the card. She's washing herself
in a river of dew. And if you look at both cards, they actually do adhere to that whole, the attitude or bodily posture being in the shape of, you can imagine the shape of that, hermetic cross of the arms and legs in that kind of twist.
Yeah. Now, so we've talked about this 7 connection, but we should also talk about the 8 connection, because 17, of course, reduces to 8. Yep. And the 8-point star is also significant, because it is, it's the star of Lakshmi is an 8-point star. And also, I think I read somewhere that the star of another goddess, it may have even been Astarte herself, is an 8-point star.
Yeah, I think it was Astarte as an 8-point star.
So, Lakshmi being a goddess of fortune and destiny. So there's sort of that aspirational quality to the card. And then just the reference to Astarte herself. And then, of course, whenever we have 8 points, we think compass. We think navigation, cardinal, intercardinal points. And we think, here's the guiding light of the star that we follow, just as we follow a lodestone or a compass. So that seems significant as well as this possible connection with Hod, Mercury.
Yeah, there seems to be a lot of Mercury, more so in the Rider-Waite, the ibis in the tree. That's a mercurial thing, I think.
Yeah, so the tree is perhaps the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and the bird upon it has been referred to as the ibis or the bird of Thoth. That's a mercurial thing.
Yeah, and this card the star is, it's both sun and stars are self-luminous. They're not reflecting the light of, like the planets reflect the light of the sun, but the sun and the stars are self-luminous. And so there's something about that the star is just a sun or the sun is just a star.
Right.
I don't know where I'm going with this other than that Mercury is always a companion of the sun. And so there's a little, maybe that's why there's so much Mercury in the card. And
of course, and you were talking about, if you look at, the path of the star as being above the abyss or, up by Hay, then you can see in the distance, you might be seeing Bina or, you see Chokmah, but you could be, if you're looking at it as the lower path, you might see that as Hod, as being nearby, just across the way. So that's easier to do with the Rider-Waite Smith card, again, to use that path, as opposed to the Crowley one.
We've got the 3 roses in
the Crowley card.
The Crowley card, again, could be Bina, Malkuth, or even Venus, the rose of Venus.
Absolutely. Yeah, the roses are kind of hard to see. So
yeah, they're in the right-hand corner.
Lower right-hand corner, just sort of, right against the edge of the card, sort of, delineating the lower right edge of the card. You can see those 3 roses we're talking about.
And then the butterfly is above that.
Ah, right. So there's an air
symbol
reference.
Of air. Yeah.
Right.
In spirit. Air as spirit. Because I think there's something in this card about the eternal process of renewal of spirit, either reincarnation itself or on a symbolic level.
This also sort of reminds me of the mikvah, the ritual bath in Judaism when, you've gone through your moon time, you're purifying yourself, and then you come out renewed. One thing we didn't talk about so much is the associated minor cards.
Aquarius. That's fun.
So so that's interesting because we have defeat, science, and futility. That one of my problems with the Hermetic tradition is those names are so strangely negative in a way, defeat and futility, and yet those cards, aren't necessarily so bad.
Yeah, and science being the mediator, the point of balance between those 2 states.
Right.
The 5, 6, and 7, the 6 being, Tiferet and the point of harmony and beauty and balance, where on either side, the 5 or the 7, you're on the unbalanced side of the tree.
That's the reference. The 5 in particular, being a number of Gevura is considered the reason why, this card of Venus, this card of Aquarius, which should be a peaceful, gentle card, is like the
getting a bit battered there.
Right. And I think Duquette calls it being in the bad neighborhood, being in the rough neighborhood. And, and you use those, the raven and the dove, this idea of the peaceful versus the rapacious.
Yes.
And, really the rapacious getting the better of the peaceful instinct in that card.
Right. There's times and places where being a pacifist probably is not your best course of action, or at least you should take evasive maneuvers in the 7.
Right. Right. In the 6, I think it's particularly Mercury and Aquarius. Again, that reference to Mercury and Hode.
Possible exaltation, depending.
Possible exaltation. And this idea that, in the weight card in particular, it's the thing that gets you from point A to point B. It gets you out of trouble, reasoning your way, using the mental faculties to find your way. It seems to me like a very good combination of mercurial intellect and the distance and guidance and navigation of the star.
The inner genius.
Exactly. And I think you were the one who pointed out to me that in the Crowley card on science, there's fencing diagrams in it, which is, I have a son who's a fencer. It's an exceedingly mental activity where you're always trying to anticipate your opponent's next move. And, especially in his weapon, which is a very fast one, you're committed to the action before you even do it. So you're constantly ahead of the game thinking, I don't know, there's like the reaching of the star and the fishhook for the next move, in my mind, with that action. Or if you like, looking through the window into the future, the window of hay, you can look at it that way too. But then with the 7, this is a very dear card to me because it's Moon in Aquarius. My moon is in that deckhand.
And mine too, but
yours
my moon's not in that deckhand, but I have Moon in Aquarius as well.
Aquarius. Which deckhand is yours in?
It's the middle one.
The middle one. Oh, lucky you. I mean, I love that second deckhand of Aquarius, but I've spent a lot of time trying to get a better feeling about that Moon in Aquarius 7 of Swords thing. And to me, there's a resourcefulness about that card. I think Austin Coppock talks about it as being a position where the moon is comfortable as an exile in other territory. So to me, again, that's that feeling of travel and openness to foreign lands that we get in Aquarius. Where, you go someplace and yet you remain the same. You're able to make your home in a strange place, which, I actually associate the 7 of Swords with Odysseus, with the travels of Odysseus and his ability to craft a way.
Actually, I think my moon might be just be crossing into the 3rd decade, so I might be in that one as well. I'm trying to remember if it's 19 or 21 degree. It's right on the cusp of science and futility.
Well, I call the 7 of Swords the card of the divided mind, and that sort of like speaks to both the skill of being able to think one thing and do another at the same time, but also the possibility of great distraction and not being able to do anything at all, which is where the futility
I can relate to that.
In.
Yeah. Yep.
So, so the star can be your guiding light, but it can also be an ignis fatuus.
I like in the Crowley card, all the curved lines becoming straight lines.
Yes.
I just think that's like the lines above have more curve to them, and then the lower they go, the more they straighten out, kind of thing.
That's interesting. That's really interesting. So,
like matter forming or,
And it's also the idea of what is constantly changing, seeming from our point of view to be a straight line. So it's, destiny goes in a straight line apparently to us, and yet it is constantly in motion.
Yep.
And you also see that in the 6 of Swords in the weight card, the turbulent waters going into the straight waters.
I think, the card is like all possibility, but yet unformed and in the process of forming. That's why it's so hopeful, because, kind of like an anything can happen if the whole mind over matter thing,
Yes. And it's like, if you imagine what it would be like in pre-GPS times following the star remains there. So you can get to it. It's always, in your mind, but you must find your way to it. You have absolute freedom to go wherever you will. And yet you have this fixed point, this goal in your mind.
And then when I think of the star too, I think of the morning and evening star being Venus in her positions. So another Venusian kind of reference, you know.
And actually, this is something I can't believe I didn't think of before. You know, the transition, when Venus transitions from evening star to morning star, it's as if she's making that passage into the underworld.
Yes,
it's the Astarte journey where she's, you know, doing this thing that's incredibly arduous and difficult, and then she's reborn again at the end as the morning star.
Right.
Yeah. Yes.
And the fact that this follows the tower, it's, you know.
Having gone through that ordeal.
Yeah, having gone through an ordeal and coming through on the other side. I think, in Dante's Inferno, you know, he goes through the purgatory and the infernos, and the first thing he sees when he emerges is the starry sky.
That's great. And it's interesting that we've done, we tend to do our recordings in sets of 3. So we did the devil, the tower, the star, and all of these, you know, there's this motion through the underground, right? So you have the hell of presided over by the devil, the jaws of Dis in the tower, and now we have the star. The emergence from the 7 gates of hell.
The emergence and the renewal. And
Right.
In the Crowley card, it's interesting too, because you see the Star of Babylon up in the left-hand corner, and the mirror image of that is rotating in the other direction. See how one's rotating clockwise and one's rotating counterclockwise?
Oh, yeah. You mean the one that's in the zodiac and the one that's in the upper
in the
left?
cup, yeah.
Right, because wait, show me what you're looking at this.
Yeah, so one to me looks like it's rotating in this direction, and this one looks like it's rotating in the other direction.
It does look like that. It does look like that. And
it makes me think of the Universe card, where she's often seen twirling the opposing the 2 spirals that go
they're sort of dueling.
There's a description in book T, I think it calls her juggling not juggling, but with the Dexter and Sinister. Yeah. So it uses a different word for it. Dextro and...
Yes.
Levo. Something.
Yes.
Yeah. Force, the 2 like forces, but it's the 2 spiral forces going in opposite directions.
So there's like kind of a northern hemisphere, southern hemisphere Coriolis effect kind of thing going on
so that could be another reference to, if it is a reference to the Universe card, that would be another Binah reference.
And also, I'm just noticing that, you know, in the upper left, and then again in the zodiacal sphere, we have the obtuse heptagram and the acute heptagram. So there's those 2 aspects as well. All right. On to natural correspondences?
Yeah.
Okay.
And colors.
Oh, colors. Right. Colors. So, I love the colors.
Beautiful colors. Violets and blues. Mauve. Sky blue, I think violet is the king scale, sky blue, mauve, and then a white with a tinge of mauve or a tinge of purple.
Right. Which is just, she was extreme fidelity
very much
in the Crowley card. Yeah. So I have the eagle written down here, which we think of as scorpionic, but
is also, associated with Aquarius. If you think of the story of Ganymede, the cupbearer, and the eagle, it also...
How did that go?
So, Zeus's cupbearer gets, I think, struck down, and the eagle catches him or something like that. But,
so, the bird of Zeus.
It's in that, it's in that section. But, Rexy Bill has a book on, rulerships, and
it's terrific.
I love it. It's like a little encyclopedia of correspondences, and you can find relationships between Aquarius and birds of prey. In general, large birds or birds of prey, and the eagle certainly qualifies.
Right, which is why you put them on your 5 of Swords, the Venus and Aquarius. And that book is the Rulership book by Rex E. Bills. And if you're listening to this podcast, chances are you want that book. Also, I've seen from the same book, the peacock, the olive branch of peace, I guess, moss and fruit trees, which is interesting. The moss in particular, because I, associate, the the perfume that I made for Aquarius, I made it of fougere, which means fern in French, which traditionally has patchouli, oak moss, and bergamot in it.
I would think lichen more than moss for Aquarius, but
because of the
because it's growing up off the ground on a tree generally, and it's in air, and in medicine it's often good for the lungs.
Oh, that's interesting.
So breathing and air.
I can see that. Well, moss for me has to do with sort of the idea that the watery side of Aquarius, it's flowing next to a riverbank, mossy
moist,
rocks.
Yeah.
So I actually, you've smelled Aquarius before. I think I made a natural version for you, but if you want to give the Streams of Stars perfume a sniff, I like that one a lot. It's got a lot of lavender and sandalwood, as well as the oak moss, other fougere ingredients. But it also has a drop of galbanum, because galbanum is, of course, what we associate with air perfumes. So I will grab the oily, grassy galbanum, which you probably smelled at least 2 times before.
But I like it, so I'll smell it again.
Yeah. Yeah, it has that.
I like that one.
Yeah, it's got a grassy, bitter quality to it. That's there's something about it that reminds me of. Anyway, so that's galbanum, and let's see. We also have some. I wrote down a few natural references to like amethyst and crystal and quartz, which all make sense.
Pretty colors, white and purple.
Pretty colors, white and purple. And also there's something about the resonance of quartz that seems to go with this, right?
Yep.
The way quartz picks up whatever
and the protective
vibration.
Quality of it and the light. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Mm-hmm. The clarity. Mm-hmm. Right. And the fact that you use quartz components in sound equipment seems sort of apt to me somehow, And the idea of quartz is you use it in watches. It's a timekeeper, Saturn.
Interesting. Yeah.
I don't know. Okay. So the absolutic path, color is violet, and it's almost at the end of the scale. So, we're all the way up from C, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, then A sharp is the color associated with violet, in the musical scale. So we've talked about a bunch of things with the star. It's such a really rich and complicated card, because it's easy to read on the surface. We first, a lot of people first use the idea of hope, and that's great. But it's also, when you unpack that and look at the symbolism and really read into it, hope is also, associated with fertility, freedom,
things of Aquarius. Freedom is a watchword of Aquarius.
Oh yeah. Don't tell me what to do now. This is our Aquarian moon speaking here.
I have a lot of Aquarius in my chart.
And the idea of, navigating far distances, networks of, friends and acquaintances in the 11th house, I guess. The idea of nakedness and your true self.
The ultimate feminine, the star, if you think of the star as Nuit, and Nuit being the first form or ultimate form of all the goddess cards, just like the male cards, the god cards are all forms of Hadit, in a sense.
Interesting. Yeah. So I hope that we've been able to expand some of the definitions you use for this card, as usual. And we will be back next time with the moon.